In this video, we're going to look at finding the product of two brackets. That's like if you have, for example, x plus 2 by x plus 3. This is also known as expanding double brackets, right? So I'm going to actually show you two methods. The first one is where you take the first term from the first brackets, which is x in this case, and you multiply it by the entire second bracket, which is x plus 3. And then you take the second term from the first bracket, which is plus 2, and you multiply that by the entire second bracket, x plus 3, right? And now we expand. So we say x times x is x squared, x times 3 is 3x, 2 times x is 2x, and 2 times 3 is 6. Now all of these are positive, so all of the numbers here will also, well, all the terms, here will also be positive. And finally, you group your like terms and you simplify. So there's no other term in x squared, so this will just remain x squared by itself. Here we have a term in x and x, so we can add those two, 3x plus 2x, which is 5x. And then you have that constant 6. No other constant, so this is the final answer. Now, the second method is basically the same thing, except you don't really write the second line with the second method. We just go straight from the first line, the problem, to the third line. So let's see. If you have, well, it's same, I'm doing the same example just to show you that it doesn't matter which method you use, you're still going to get the same answer. Now, in the first method, what you do is you say x times x, which will give me x squared. And then you say x times 3, which will give me 3x. So it's the same thing in that you're multiplying the first term in the first bracket by each term in the second bracket. And then you take the second term in the first bracket, which is 2, and you multiply that by x, the first term in the second bracket. Now this is positive 2, so positive 2 times x will give me 2x, positive 2x, and 2 times 3, and both of them are positive, will give me 6. And then you just group your like terms and add them together. So cos x squared by itself, 3x plus 2x is 5x, and then 6. So as you can see, it's the same answer. This one, you just go straight from the first line directly to this line here, and then you still get the same answer. It doesn't matter which one you use, it's essentially the same thing that you're doing, and you're going to get the same answer. Okay, let's look at another example. This time, I'm going to use different signs. So this example, we're going to take 2x minus 3 times x plus 5, right? And I'm going to use this method here. So you take the first term in the first bracket and you multiply that by the first term in the second bracket. So 2x times x will give me 2x squared. And then the first term in the first bracket by the second term in the second bracket. So 2x times 5. Now this is positive and this is also positive. So this will be plus 10x. And then you take the second term in the first bracket and you multiply by the first term in the second bracket. Now you have to be mindful that this is negative 3. So negative 3 times positive x will give me negative 3x. And then negative 3 times positive 5 will also give me a negative. This time it's going to be negative 15. And now you simplify. So 2x squared, it does not have another term in x squared, so that's just going to be 2x squared. 10x minus 3x is 7x, and then negative 15, right? So that's the answer. Okay, check out this one. If you have something like, let's say 3x minus 1 squared, this is not equal to 9x squared plus 1. That's not what it means. 3x minus 1 squared rather literally means 3x minus 1 times 3x minus 1, because that's what square means. To square something means you multiply it by itself, right? So let's use our regular steps. We say 3x times 3x, first term in the first bracket, times the first term in the second bracket. So that would be 3 times 3 is 9, and x times x is x squared. And then you take the first term again, and you multiply by the second term in the second bracket. So 3x times 1, now this is negative 1. So negative 1 times positive 3x will be negative 3x. And you have the second term now in the first bracket, negative 1 times 3x, which will give me negative 3x again. And then negative 1 times negative 1 gives me positive 1. And now you can simplify. So you get 9x squared. Since there's no other term in x squared, there's nothing more to do with 9x squared. And then negative 3x minus 3x, they are like terms, so I can work that out. It'll give me negative 6x. And then there's no other constant, so 1 remains as is. Now, if you would prefer to do it where you write out like this, if you have 3x minus 1 times 3x minus 1, and you decide that you want to write it out. So up here, the rule is really you take the first term and you multiply it by each term in the second bracket, and then you take the second term from the first bracket and you multiply it by each term in the second bracket. Now, in this method, we don't write out that second step. We just go straight to this line here. But you could write this out like I showed you before. So you could say, you could put the first term from the first bracket, and I'm multiplying that by the second bracket. So 3x times 3x minus 1. And then you take this minus 1, which is the second term in the first bracket, and you multiply that by the whole second bracket, 3x minus 1. And then you expand your bracket. So you say 3x times 3x will give me 9x squared, and 3x times negative 1 gives me negative 3x. And now negative 1 times 3x gives me negative 3x, and negative 1 times negative 1 is positive 1. And as you can see, it's the same line, right? It's just that I wrote the second one. Sometimes it's easier to write out the second line because you see exactly what you're doing, but it's not necessary. But it's just really up to what you want to do. All right, so now I simplify 9x squared, negative 3x minus 3x gives me negative 6x, and then plus 1. So you get the same answer regardless of which strategy you use.